Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. This is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste. I'm so excited. I'm going to be having a cosmic conversation. Hi, let your soul lead. What great advice. Hi, Patty. So nice to see you. And Meg Foy, welcome, welcome. Hey, everyone. Yes, I'm having a cosmic conversation today. I'm so excited to talk to Clarissa. Yeah, let me make sure I. Afternoon, Tanya. Welcome. Hi, Rebecca. So good to see everyone. Yes, yes. Yeah, Clarissa and I are going to talk about the current energies and all sorts of stuff. Hey there, how are you?
I'm so fab. How are you?
I am doing really good too.
Good.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk to you about because we have such like big energy coming in and love to get your perspective with your brilliant self.
Oh, ditto. Celeste, are you kidding me? Like, you're my favorite forecaster. And yeah, it's about to get straight up wild. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say too.
Oh, good, good. Now, introduce yourself in case anyone is new to
Yes.
you.
Hi, everybody. And thanks again for having me, Celeste, and everybody for being here. My name's Clarissa Dolphin. I am a harmonic astrologer. I've been certified in harmonics for like 10 years almost now. It's a very different kind of astrology. It's very quantum physics based. Every time I say that, it's like, oh my God, over my head. But it really is, it's just like energy and the forces that create reality, and also just astrology talk. Harmonics are aspects. So we have names for squares. That's the fourth harmonic. Trines. That's the third harmonic, etc. But the things that I read, we just don't have names for, like the 11th harmonic, etc., etc. So yeah, that's a little bit of me.
Yeah, and do you teach harmonic astrology as well?
Yes, I've actually taught like 200 classes. I took a little hiatus from 2022, but I'm actually going to be teaching harmonics again from this fall.
Okay, and so people can get on your newsletter if they want to know when your next classes are coming up, and tell people your website, Sidereal, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's mouthy, and I'm actually starting a new website in a month, which is totally in tandem with these energies. It's like all brand new. So my new website is Clarissa Dolphin Explains It All dot
oh,
com. And in the meantime, let's connect on Instagram, please.
okay, perfect. So anyone, you could just push the carrot and connect with Clarissa, or me if you're new to me by following us. You don't even have to leave. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so today we have Venus opposite Pluto, but I really wanted to talk to you about the Mars-Uranus conjunction coming on Monday at 26 Taurus, so everyone can look at their chart. And if you have anything around 26 Taurus or any of the fixed signs of Leo, Aquarius, or Scorpio, you probably already are feeling this energy and have been for weeks. Yeah, and it's conjunct a fixed star Algol that makes it even more intense. Do you work with fixed stars too in harmonics?
You can look at pretty much anything.
Mm,
I have no idea about fixed stars, so
okay.
I can't hear your perspective on it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us your perspective on the Mars Uranus conjunction?
Well, so just in general, just that planetary pairing in general is combustibility, aggression, and violence. That doesn't necessarily, from a harmonic perspective, Mars alone and Uranus alone doesn't necessarily suggest getting all up in your face and stuff. Is when they're together that things blow up, right? Like,
Oh, we can't hear you. Did you go on mute accidentally?
oh, sorry, no, my phone is just tripping. Can you hear me now?
I can. Yeah, and you were talking about how it's combustible when the two come together.
Right. And so many of my non-astrology friends have been texting me all week talking about what's going on. I've had this aggravation and this breakdown and etc. And even in my own personal life, I've been wishing death on my enemies this week, flaring up, right? Like, so that's just going to be the planets alone. And then from a harmonic astrology perspective, actually, we've got creative genius being sparked by this. So to me, that's really heartening, because this kind of like level of chaos and transition energy as a human being, it's like, please just let it stop. But what it's actually doing is it's actually generating, unprecedented ways of expression, and inventions as well. Because that's what the 25, 5 times 5, fifth harmonic creates: inventions on a mundane level, and also different educational opportunities, and also crazy luck. So I think that anything that's actually exploding right now could actually be for everybody's benefit at the end.
I love that. I swear to God, Clarissa, just before I was getting ready, and I got this great idea on how I want to change, like start a membership for next year. And it was like, it just came in, and I was like, oh, let me go write this down. Because what Uranus can do is you get a sudden download of information, because it's a higher octave of Mercury, about how you want to take action. Mars rules action.
Yep.
And boom. So yeah, so that's one of the most positive parts of this transit. But it's tough energy, because it's like Mars is very poking and piercing, and then you bring the whirling dervish of Uranus in, and it's like, yeah, it could be a little destabilizing, is a good way to kind of think about it.
Yeah, it's just that whole the concept of stability, or things that were anchored upon, and this goes into Jupiter Saturn too for next month. And I really do believe it's like this transit and the Venus Pluto and all this stuff into August with the Mercury retrograde and all this Mars in Gemini. We really all need to redefine stability, because whatever was going on in the past is not going to provide that stability anymore. Just period. So
yeah, and you can see it like around the world. It is just, we had the Jupiter Uranus conjunction come together on April 20th, and that was at 21 degrees of Uranus. And now Mars is activating that, like expanding it. And all these elections around the world where people are wanting change. Uranus rules elections. Jupiter is like the royalty, or you can look at it as like the leader. And all these changes in South Africa, the ANC lost their power base, and in Kenya, in France, they're upheaval everywhere. And like here, talking about replacing Biden, it's just wild watching it. The first woman in Mexico. It is just absolutely wild how much change we're experiencing with Pluto and Aquarius. The collective is feeling a lot of unearthing and upheaval and all of it. Yeah.
Oh my God. And thank you for saying that, because, obviously we're astrologers, so we're always looking ahead, and there's like a million transits every day and things like that. But really, all this is happening on the backdrop of Pluto and Aquarius, which is this apocal shift type of thing. And to me, I feel like that's, even though we're talking about these specific transits, I do feel like Pluto in Aquarius is the underbed of literally absolutely everything. Like, I don't think we can talk about any kind of current transit without acknowledging the impact of Pluto in Aquarius. And I think with all this instability, just personally, one thing that's heartening about Pluto in Aquarius is that it is inevitable that the people will rise. some of my friends, and a lot of people are freaking out right now, which is very different type of energy, particularly from an American context. It's like, oh, there's another election. Look at these idiots. I'll just whatever. Like, people are straight up shook now. So anyway, one of my friends was texting in our group chat talking about, oh my God, Clarissa, are we going to survive? And I was like, of course we are. I mean, this isn't the first cycle of insanity and hard times in human history. And I was like, can you imagine how terrible it must have been the last Pluto in Aquarius for Haitian slaves in Haiti? Can you imagine how awful the slave masters were and how that existed? And they were slaves and they still rose. You see what I mean? Like, and that is the inevitability ultimately from all this stuff as a collective. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great to put, like, well, the last time, for people who don't realize, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was around all these revolutions, with the United States, Haiti, France, what have you. And I feel like it's this struggle between power over the people and power of the people, and we're going back and forth and back and forth. But it's Aquarius rules the collective, and all this stuff is being unearthed for us to deal with. And Pluto is power struggles on like a really high, intense, primal level, and you can see it all around the world with people in the streets saying enough is enough. Yeah. I'm surprised we haven't seen more in the US recently with, the wealth imbalances, and oh my God. And if there are even more tax cuts, like if Trump was to win, and more tax cuts and more, deregulation and all of this stuff, that people are going to be getting angrier and angrier. And this is a 20-year thing where we're going to be, like, there's going to be this intensity as an underdrop, like you said. I love how you language that. This is like the high level Pluto in Aquarius. There are these big shifts coming, and we know AI is just one of them, with the open AI and Chat GPT, where, oh my God, what's going to happen when all these jobs can be replaced by a computer program? And it's not just fast food. It's like stock trading. It's all over the place where we can, where we can see this massive changes. But we're here. What are we going to do about it? How can we pervade? How can we keep, as much as we can, like a steadiness within ourselves? Do you have any suggestions around that?
You know what? Well, I think perhaps, keeping a steadiness within ourselves is to embrace the entropy, is to embrace the chaos versus fighting it. And that, to me, I think speaks to some of the transits that are coming up, like the Mars-Uranus transit, the Jupiter-Saturn transit that occurs next month on August 19th, the same day as the full moon. It's fascinating because Jupiter-Saturn is stabilizing just as a natural force of planetary pairs. You've got the expansion of Jupiter is stabilized and contained by Saturn so that it creates long-term structure, so that you can do, it's like the crutch, it's like the foundation of the house that exists over time. That's Jupiter Saturn, right? But like, from the actual harmonics of the transit, it's an 11th harmonic transit. 11th harmonic is chaos. It's insatiable restlessness. I call it, please forgive me, I call it the crack harmonic or the meth harmonic, because it's always going like this. It can never stay still. So stabilizing energy, I feel like there's a lot to be excited about. in change, and also to your earlier question, Celeste, that we can actually make a difference as a collective. I think, like, from, you know, an American perspective, and this is just totally subjective, it feels like we've been dulled by consumerism or dulled by whatever, and now it's like, you know, make a move. We can actually make a move and actually make significant change now. That's what the astrology is supporting. And to me, that contributes to mental health at this time. What do you think?
I like that. And think about, like, this is a time where, like, what are your values? You can really be thinking about. The United States is in a Pluto return, and we have Pluto in the second house. What are your values? Like, is choice really important for you? Like, women, with what the Supreme Court did and overturning Roe versus Wade, I think really woke people up. And we're seeing people, like, having a crisis, you know, their bodies trying to miscarry, and they're being left in parking lots to, like, become septic. Or, I mean, it's just horrific, the things we're seeing about the containment of women's attempting to, you know, the control over women, which so fits in with the Algol theme of the upcoming transit.
Can you please tell us about that?
Yeah,
What is
okay, yeah.
Algol, and what it, yeah.
So Algol is a fixed star, and so fixed stars essentially don't really move. I mean, they move like a degree every 72 years, and it's the most feared fixed stars. You can look at cultures throughout the world. All gave this significance of malevolence to this star, like it blinks red. And so the Chinese called it piles of corpses because it would often, when it was activated, there would be some kind of event where a lot of people were killed or whatnot. The Arab cultures called it Ras Al Ghul, and I think the devil's wife. The Greeks, it's associated with the Medusa star, and the Medusa myth is about this beautiful woman who was raped in by Poseidon in Athena's temple, and she was punished for being attacked. Hello, what we see, you know, some of the things coming up in the United States. Punished for being attacked and turned into a hideous monster. And she was beheaded by Perseus, who used her head as a weapon, but also protection energy. And I really feel like, this is an aside, but Taylor Swift, her chart's been rectified to have 25 or 26 Scorpio on the ascendant, which would put Algol on her descendant, so the other. You can think about how she writes these songs that behead her exes, and about how, like, conservative factions in the United States are trying to demonize her. There's this demonizing thing because they're concerned she'll use her influence around election time. So that's like how you can see people that happening. So it's called the beheading star. So it's about, like, don't lose your own head, kind of energy. And the ancient Hebrews associated with Lilith. So women who will not be subservient, because Lilith was Adam's first wife, and she wouldn't lay up under him. So she was kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And Bernadette Brady talks about how Algol is not evil, but it is this intense star about what men fear about women's who have control of their sexuality and their that strength within them, essentially.
Wow, well, it's such a trip how I feel like that tracks with some of the stuff that's going on in the harmonics. Because first of all, like, it's a 25th harmonic creative genius, like Taylor Swift. I know she's controversial or whatever, but she's, like, at the top. She's Taylor Swift. I'm not the biggest Swiftie, but I do have some of her songs on my track list. I am not hating on Taylor Swift. And why it tracks so specifically is because in this 25th harmonic of creative genius, we've got the Mars-Uranus energy with Venus-Pluto. So Venus-Uranus is singing. It's singing, dancing. Venus-Mars, that's, creation. That's like, art. So it's like there is like an artistic factor that's flaring up, and that speaks, kind of like collectively and personally, like when you're having these flashes about creating your community next year, Celeste, which I'm definitely going to be in. Can't wait. And to creation, right? It's a tangible, but it's also kind of like these creatives like speaking out and using their force in the world. Other things that track though that are kind of less, that are, I would say, are straight up more disturbing, would be that another layer of harmonics to the Mars-Uranus on Monday is the 13th harmonic. And the 13th harmonic, I refer to it as the harmonic of gurus and gangsters. It's a very complex harmonic. One thing that I'm learning about it that destroys my inherent optimism about existence is that 13th harmonic is very rooted in survival and all the tactics around it. Like, it's like, I'll kill you for this. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like the pretty survival. It's the type of stuff. Other things about it is that it is often associated with renegades, like good and bad, and particularly in an American context, at this point, the Republican Party. So we've got this Mars-Uranus energy, which is already, that's soldier, that's fighting, that's violence, that's aggression. With the 13th harmonic, that 13th harmonic is intractable, and it's going to fight to survive. It doesn't care what other people think. It's impolite, and it doesn't follow rules. So anyway,
that's Donald Trump, and he has his midheaven is 24 Taurus.
Wow.
So it's within 2 degrees of this 2 degrees of this this conjunction. Yeah. And the Republican National Convention starts on Monday. So this Mars-Uranus conjunct Algol is going to be permeating through that whole convention. So like, if people are watching, like, listen to it from that perspective of all these things we're talking about. Uranus, revolutionary, changing things. Uranus rules abortion and elections, electricity. It's like a political earthquakes, all of this kind of stuff. Mars, the talk of action and battle, fighting to save your country. How much are they going to demonize women and abortion and all of this kind of stuff in the talk? One thing I'm interested about next week is like the sun is going to square Eris, the goddess of chaos, who rolled the apple into the party and like caused all this disruption.
Well, women are definitely going to have a big part in whatever goes down next week, obviously, like with the fixed stars, but also like in the harmonics with all kind of like the Venusian energy. And 13th harmonic it's so complex because it applies to so many things, and that includes health, that includes like the physical body, diagnostics and things like that. So it's triggering the same issues, like abortion issues, but I think other things might come up. I think food might come up, and I also think that's going to come up next month when we've got Jupiter conjunct Saturn. I think we're going to start looking differently at our natural resources, and that's another thing that's part of this whole thing, the Pluto and Aquarius underbelly thing, and how Aquarius it's totally the collective, but it's also the bioorganic collective, like as in things like the atmosphere and all things that we're all kind of one organism type of thing. And another kind of like attribute of the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, like hundreds of years ago, was the development of the vaccine, which was super weird too. So Pluto and Aquarius, where like they got the vaccine from some pussing thing from a cow for smallpox, you know, like weird. But anyway, I'm bringing that up because you can see the same vaccines within the past years been so controversial, right? Thing. They were dealing with vaccines at the level of smallpox, same kind of thing, where we have these colonial invaders going to these different countries and spreading disease of conquest, Pluto and Capricorn, right? Like all this kind of stuff. And then the vaccine was developed for smallpox back then, but guess what we're dealing with now? We have new diseases of conquest, which is crisis, and plastic. The fact that there's plastic in my ovaries right now is, and all of ours, that plastic pollution thing and the climate crisis thing, the fact, you know, that is going to be highlighted even more next month when we have Jupiter conjunct Saturn.
You mean square, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Jupiter no worries.
Yeah. That's like, we're gonna start like, the idea of helicopters falling out of the sky because it's too hot, and you know how all of it's connected, right? Like, so these same people who are manufacturing oil and dropping bombs on the darkies, right? The new colored people, everybody who's colored, I'm a Black American, a lot of us can relate to just any form of colonial conquest. We can relate to Gazans because it happened to us. We figured it out, right? It's the same thing. Anyway, in the 2024 context, now we're dealing with the oligopolies, right? Yeah. The same people who are doing the oils are making plastics, are dropping bombs, are infecting us with fentanyl, right? Like you and I both live in California. Yeah. You're in the Bay up north. I'm here in Los Angeles. I was born and raised here. This isn't homelessness. This is fentanyl crisis from the Sacklers, from the Percocets 20 years ago, from all these people who are now addicts and they would have never ever used heroin. If the oligopoly, the 1%ers, that's what's really happening. You know, I feel like it goes beyond civic and civil rights issues. It totally is, period. But now it's like, it's this mass poison issue. And that's a long kind of a little tangential from my original point, which is Pluto and Aquarius as bioorganic reality, where it's not healthy on a civic level. Back in the day, it's not healthy to have slaves. Yeah. It's not healthy for, you know, in the French Revolution, just the rich people to have all the money and everybody starving in the street. That's like the level of extremity where we're at. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's so fascinating that you brought up plastics as a type of invasion into our lives, whereas even no matter how clean you keep your diet, we're all still being poisoned in some ways by the consumerism. And all of these things that are being made, and the need to just more wealth and all of that kind of stuff. That's a great pull back. I wanted to pull back in for a minute because I had a thought while we were talking about Mars-Uranus. Mars also rules sex, and Uranus, and there's like this energy of rashness and impulsiveness. So Witchy Dance it says that the Mars-Uranus conjunction is conjunct their natal moon and Jupiter in their 8th house. And so, so when I think about moon, I think about your home, your family. Be careful with knives and sharp objects and electricity over this weekend. I would recommend, and getting in fights with anyone in your family are things I would think about with that. But I was thinking about the convention next week, and I don't know, with the Lilith energy and the what do you call it? Lilith and Eris being activated. You
I
know,
think
whenever these people go to conventions like this, some of the men start going out there and getting sex workers.
so.
And I wonder if, because after the convention, Mars goes into Gemini. So Mars trying will be sextile. Is it sextile trine? Mars is in Mars in Taurus, sextile Neptune. Like I can see like some surreptitious taping of stuff coming out like right after the convention. That's going to be more scandalous and bring more upheaval and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm. I think these people are going to turn out too, as in turn up, not in the fun way, not in the cookout way, like as in violence. Period. With Mars-Uranus.
Like okay, so my podcast next week is called Wrestling with a Pig. So I don't know
Ooh.
if there'll be like a lot of protests where people get into it with the police, or or talk about women being pigs, or like I don't know how it's going to show up, but around the world we're going to be seeing this something around wrestling with a pig kind of energy, I think. And the pig could be within yourself, like your own. If you're trying to do something where, like Venus opposite Pluto today, are you trying to quit sugar or wine or something like that, and you're like struggling within yourself, like, oh, I want this thing that I love, but it's not good for me, I need to like cold turkey it with Pluto.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
good luck with that when it's Venus Pluto, because it's compulsive attraction. It's like cold turkey it when it's Venus Saturn or Saturn Pluto. Like Venus Pluto is like, just don't be around it because you're about to eat it all. Like, period. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there are a lot of comments here. Oh, thank you, Tara. Tara says, I'm looking very Venus.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You
Thank
always,
you.
oh, you're gorgeous.
Oh, you're so sweet. Oh, my goodness. So, oh, Tanya, yes, July 15th is an aggressive day, but we're already feeling it. And, you know, another thing we're seeing, like with the relationship of Algol and the piles of corpses energy, is like in Texas, there was this, you know, the hurricane. There are still over 1 million people without power. Mars rules power. Uranus cuts it off abruptly. And they're in Taurus, an earth sign, and Mars, like a fire and heat. People are having heat stroke from, you know, there's no power, there's no air conditioning. People are standing outside in line trying to get water and food and da da da. You know, we're seeing this, and elsewhere around the world there's like huge floods and lots of climate crisis. I think, Clarissa, the climate crisis is really like part of Pluto and Aquarius, the big upheaval that we're all experiencing.
Yep.
Like Pluto has a mass influence, like it affects tons of people.
Yep.
And then you put it in Aquarius and it's like we're all facing like the hottest days ever were this week in Death Valley. I mean, this is big deal. And you mentioned it with like helicopters falling out of the sky, or these planes having this weird turbulence because the air is so hot or unstable. Yeah. I feel like something's gonna happen where we have to take climate change seriously. We can't just play around anymore.
And I feel like that's as soon as next month too. Literally with the Jupiter square Saturn, because it's in the 11th harmonic and it's with Venus Saturn. Venus Saturn in harmonic astrology is nature. It's earth. It's the flora and fauna. It's herbs. It's, you know, animals, all that kind of stuff. And the 11th harmonic, I actually think is kind of, you could attribute it kind of to Uranus in regular, like, it does feel electric. And Jupiter, Saturn, basically, long story short, like, even when we're talking about AI, which is totally new and it's a threat and all that kind of stuff, like, we don't have, I feel like our infrastructure can melt with that. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about like hosting AI and stuff like that, but the temperature's too hot, our grids are old.
You know what? There was a bridge in New York that froze in the up position because of the heat. And it could, yeah, you are absolutely right. Like the infrastructure was not built to sustain these kinds of temperatures and things. So what are we going to do to make the changes? Yeah, and that's so for people. Jupiter's in Gemini, an air sign. Gemini rules like things like transportation, and it's going to square Saturn in Pisces, a water sign, and they're both mutable. Mutable energies around, I think it's 17 degrees of each. So you can look and see where you have that in your chart and think about like the things it is ruling. I'm worried about, I'm a little concerned about financial stuff. I was
Oh.
seeing in China, they're having a bunch of like problems with banks and things going
Hmm.
away and people having trouble getting their money.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'd love to hear your opinion about that because that is not my area of expertise with mundane. So what concerns you about that?
Well, with Mars-Uranus and Taurus, Taurus rules banks, monetary interests, and things like that. Could there be an unexpected sudden kind of crash or something in China or somewhere else
Hmm.
that can have like a ripple effect around the world? And Jupiter rules wealth, and squaring Saturn and Pisces feels like a constriction as well. So,
Well, there is a constriction of wealth. I don't know about you. So I was born in the 80s.
mm-hmm.
I had,
70s, baby.
I'm an 80s baby child, 5 trillion%. And, you know, I was in the workforce for a cool 10 years before the 2008 crash.
Mm.
And even then it was changing, right? Like in the 90s and the early 2000s, the noughties, the work job force situation was changing. But after 2008, my experience is like it's impossible to get a job. And if you get a well-paying job, like there's hundreds of applicants for one job. I was in the writing industry, and so writing jobs became relegated to interns and internships after the 2008 crash. And so, you know, I feel like a lot of what you're talking about is now with this Pluto and Aquarius stuff with the Mars Uranus situation is just coming to a head where, you know, like there are people in Los Angeles who have full-time jobs and sleep in their car and they go to the gym to shower before they go to work. They can't afford rent. The national minimum wage in the United States, like basically I feel like that wealth inequality thing is so already apparent. And I just think, you know, this type of astrology is again not just forcing consciousness, because a lot of us are already conscious of it, but action, like, oh hell no, we're gonna have to you know, totally change this ish, because none of us are gonna survive with you greedy ass mofos doing whatever you're doing. Like, none of us are going to survive, and that's like an actual fact, at the very least with the climate crisis, but particularly and also wealth disparity. What do you think?
I think you're right on. And I think next year, so next year is a year of huge change. So someone
Yep.
was asking, when are things going to settle down? I don't think
Not.
we're going to settle down for several years.
Yeah.
Maybe 2027. But next year we're having 3 planets move from yin signs, which is more internal, to yang signs. So Neptune's going into Aries and Saturn's going into Aries, and
Yep.
Uranus is going into Gemini. So there is going to be this huge pushing out of energy. So like what's going to happen to make people, you know, really rise up about the inequality that they're experiencing. And it could be something starting from a financial problem. Like the debt crisis leads to some kind of something snaps kind of thing. Ah, yeah. Great. Let me see. Okay, Neptune and Aries. Oh, Claudio is bringing up Neptune and Aries and Gemini next year. The big shift about communication, war, and climate change. Absolutely. Yeah. Mm, mm. AI is a computer kind of war in the air signs. Yeah. Yeah. We're in may you live in interesting times is a big, you know, the Chinese curse. That's we are certainly are. But like, what can you do? Like, okay, if you're really into politics, get involved. Like, what are your things that you believe in? Are you going to be a poll worker? Are you going to like write postcards? Are you going to run for office? Are you going to like, what can you do to use your life in order to make some kind of positive change in your environment? Like all these things start with just one person that make, I mean, yeah, you have the ability to make real impactful change.
Yeah, and that goes back to the Pluto and Aquarius conversation, right? Because like Pluto and Capricorn, that energy is more like I'm the boss.
Yeah.
That's like boss, like literal boss, and you're below me. And that's like the infrastructure of a Pluto in Capricorn. A Pluto in Aquarius is the commune rises. The commune, it's a that bioorganic energy. It's like we're all part of this one amoeba. So you start to see little sects and groups have more force and more impactful change than the boss structure. So it's like, that's another thing. It's like we can make a difference. I was going to Sephora to get my makeup on, which I don't do, right? Like I needed help, whatever. Anyway, I've been shopping online for like ever. So short, I'm communicating with this wonderful retail person who changed my life because I don't do makeup. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing, and she just made such a huge impact for me. Just like helping me select what I needed. I don't understand anything. Anyway, long story short, I saw her a week later, and I was like, "What's up, Minnie?" You know, like, and because I really appreciated her. And her response to me was fascinating to me because she was like, "Oh, hi," you know, and it was like, maybe I am like weird and a little too much, but what I got from her response is just being used to being treated like ish. Being used to being like this retail worker where it's just like nobody cares about what you actually do. You're just a cog in the wheel and stuff. The reality of the astrology that we're experiencing over the next few years, starting now, is that is no longer the case, right? Like you do make a difference. That's the reality. And I think that's what we're kind of catching up to. You know, we're not like just these little cogs in the wheels. You can abuse us with your $7 an hour paychecks or whatever, and then you just keep on getting $1 billion and nobody makes a difference. If you know, like if collectively McDonald's workers were like, I'm not going to work tomorrow, McDonald's is going to make some changes. That's what we're seeing too. Like, I think we should acknowledge
the strikes we've been seeing.
Thank
like
you.
Uranus's revolutions. Yeah.
Yeah.
It strikes. Like the UPS workers starting to go on strikes because these bastards wouldn't even put air conditioning in their trucks and things, and people were dying in their trucks. The writers went on strike. There have been teacher strikes. Like people are like getting fed up. Like strikes and boycotts we're going to be seeing more and more of, I think.
Period. And out of survival too, right? Like that
Yes.
13th harmonic energy, we cannot survive this way. And we're also seeing things like with the whole like plastic pollution thing. How are our body, all of us are infected with plastic. I don't want to be like crazy about this, but it's just a reality. I have an autoimmune disorder. Why? Probably because of plastic. There's a lot of people that I know who are like in their 30s dying of cancer. Why? You know what I'm saying? So once we start getting, and this goes to the Mercury Saturn quincunx that's also happening on Monday. So we were
Yes.
talking about this revelatory information. I think that we're all, Mercury Saturn in harmonics is analysis. It's hardcore data. It's punching data, right? So it's like these raw facts. And when it's coupled with a quincunx, I refer to it as the aspect of eternal puberty, because that's what it is. It's growing, but in a pubescent way, which is awkward, weird, doesn't know where it's going to end up, right? So anyway, I feel like we're going to just keep getting hit with, particularly on Monday, with this aspect, this weird information. Like, okay, well, what are we going to do with that? You know, like,
And
how does
Mercury's in Leo,
yeah.
a fire sign. Leo rules royalty. What's Leonic that's going to we're going to hear about deception, Saturn and Pisces, some kind of deception that's and it may be something in the royal family. I was thinking about last night, like that could be one of the stories. There's to be stories all around the world of a Mars-Uranus nature, but that I'm glad you mentioned that Mercury and Leo, quincunx, Saturn and Pisces. What is that information we're going to hear about going to be? Yeah. If anyone in the chat has other thoughts of Leo, what it could be. Yeah. But I think it's their finances, definitely. So Taurus, finances. What else would we say? Do you work much with the signs and harmonics, or are you really mostly focused on the planets?
The harmonics are mostly focused on planets and aspects, but I work with the signs with horary and like and consultation charts for natal analysis. But like to me, like whenever you've got Earth signs, it's Earth stuff.
Health and wealth.
Health and period, right? Like so it's all the tangible things that we can touch and feel that are affected, and particularly in this case, exploded because it's Mars-Uranus. Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you can think about, Mars also rashes, heat, inflammation.
Yep.
Like there could be some big drop of information about health stuff that we find out. Like, well, today there was something, because Uranus is also scientific advancements. And today there's some new thing about lupus that there might be, that they found out something scientifically that will help lead to improvements. So speaking of autoimmune immune issues, I've got several people in my life with lupus. Yeah. So there's the positive breakthrough energy,
right.
Scientific breakthrough energy with that. But maybe more of that will be coming on Monday.
Yeah. The quincunx is weird. So I think it's totally unpredictable.
Oh, that's right. Oh, Alien Big Head said they released a study on tampons, all brands being toxic and containing lead. That brings in the Algol symbology about, about women. They're being, being damaged by these products. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, that's a shock, a Mars-Uranus shock. Yeah. Oh, Pallas Athene. I don't know where Pallas Athene is right now. Let me look at my thing. I don't have it. I don't have it on. Do you know what degree it's at in sign, La Marina? There's a lot of good things that we can bring in forward, despite the chaos going on around us. I mean, you always have to have hope and that we can change things. I think there's a lot of big energy for the people to make positive changes. Like in the revolutions back in the
Yep.
1700s, they were a lot of instability and hard stuff. But the Constitution is a pretty cool document, even though we've never lived up to the true meaning of it. But that was a humongous deal. The freedom that people had, freedom of speech is like, oh my God. I mean, it was so revolutionary back in the day. And what the French did with taking out the monarchy and, a much more society where people had more equality. I mean, these are the big things that are potentials to come, like breaking down some of those big all it would take would be a Congress that was interested in bringing more democracy to the country to make some big changes. But right now, the people seem so beholden to corporations that's a big problem.
Exactly. So like it's like the oligopoly runs the world, any
Yeah,
country, period.
yeah. Oh, okay. It's at 19 Scorpio. So that is Pallas Athene at 19 Scorpio is trine Saturn. Hmm. And Pallas Athene is an asteroid of strategy. Hmm. I'm trying to think. I'm not. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Pisces is creative. Can we find some creative strategies around water? I was thinking about water desalination could be some kind of breakthrough that comes up.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot because that 25th harmonic energy is part of this, right? Inventions, that creative, combustion type of thing. Who how can we use the energies to met Tonya asks, so in our personal lives, how can we use the energies to manifest major personal changes? I'm going to be honest with you. I was actually thinking about this kind of on just reading the mundane astrology, because any mundane aspect is going to affect your chart very specifically. It can hit the whole world one way, but it hits your chart a totally completely different way because of where it lands and the type of harmonics it generates and resonances, whatever. But just in general, like all of our collective personal lives, it's just breaking free. So and that is just like everything. It's so from ground up, relationships, any type. And let me tell you something that's like a trip. Actually, I was thinking of the Mercury quincunx Saturn just in my own personal life, and how it's like breaking free with this weird maturation thing, which is what the quincunx does, and analyzing, looking at things differently. And then the Mars-Uranus something blowing up. Anyway, long story short, I realized after living my whole life, I'm in my 40s now, I realized suddenly that a member of my nuclear family is a straight up psychopath. Like literal psychopath. And then I just started seeing like the impact of that, like the generational impact on, my cousins and my aunts, and just like the whole, like, what is it like to have, a family pillar who's actually a psychopath? And then how much forgiveness can you give to everybody? Like all of the hardships that they went through, that I was upset with them when I was a kid because they were acting a fool or whatever. It's like there's so much more like ability to create compassion. So anyway, it's just like breaking free, like these different perspectives and methodologies of actions. Like I feel like that's uncomfortable just in general for humans, because maybe we like comfort or whatever, but that's how we can create major manifestations. Is literally that the old narratives or whatever, they're just not going to work, so just accept it. Let's go break free.
Yeah, I love that with the quincunx, because the quincunx is 150 degrees. It's in your blind spot. So you've known you have this relative who acts
Mm-hmm.
out or does whatever they do. but like as it's coming in to perfect, you like see it in a different way. You see it for what it really is, and it breaks open something. Yeah. Yeah. Uranus is liberation. Like I use Uranus to liberate myself from my corporate career.
Yep.
You could the Fool card in the tarot, and you can think about yes, yeah. So I guess Pallas Athene is in a trine. So maybe that's part with the sun and Saturn. Like when I got my great idea for my community, that's Pallas Athene as well as the Mars Uranus. Yeah, and I have it conjunct my North Node. Jacqueline, you're asking about world points. Yeah, the world points are 0 and 22 and a half of cardinal signs, 15 degrees of fixed signs, and 7.5 degrees of mutable signs. And I don't think anything's on a world point right now that I don't see. Okay. Oh, Palace. Okay. People are people are asking some questions. Yeah. But I love that, Clarissa, what you said about seeing things differently. So I think for everybody, just really pay attention to see how this energy shows up in your life. I mean, it could just be internal combustion. It could be you make big decisions about how you want to change and grow. It can be you see things breaking down, but we're all going to see stuff coming on Monday that's of the relationship, because Uranus transits happen to the day. Like Sunday, Monday, we're going to be seeing something probably that'll get a big news, I think.
Yeah, and I wonder what you think, Celeste, but I feel like with transit to transit kind of stuff, like it's actually strong in the lead up before it's conjunct, and then it's conjunct and it's partile, and then it's like, it's like,
and then it all
the energy
releases.
Yeah. So it's probably now too, in the build up, it's like, you can feel it,
Yeah. Yeah, but then it'll release and it'll be on to the next transit. That Jupiter Saturn's a big one because they're the social planets. So that's around the full moon in August. That's going to be a
same day.
Same day
crazy?
as the full moon. Yeah. We're really going to be seeing something. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're almost up to the top of the hour. This has been so great talking to you. I could talk to you all day. So why don't you, again, remind everyone where they can find you and tell them about anything new you're doing or what have you.
Oh, thanks, Celeste. Well, yeah, I am doing all kinds of new stuff. I'm actually embracing everything that we talked about right now. My new website's going to launch. Excuse me. My old website, I'm not even going to look. It's like I can't even mention it without my phone dropping. So my new website is going to launch, called Clarissa Dolphin Explains It All.com in September. I'm going to be launching a new community portal that's not just for astrologers, but it's for all of our multi-hyphenate spiritualists out there. And I'm going to be teaching harmonic astrology as well from this fall. So if you want to stay in touch, just follow me at Clarissa Dolphin on socials, and I'll drop you a line via the newsletter when everything's up. And Celeste, thank you so much for having me. I think you're brilliant. You're one of my favorite astrologers. You're one of my favorite forecasters, and just people. Like, I got to hang out with Celeste in Sedona in Arizona last month. She's so cool. You're so cool. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, I adore you as well, and your brilliant self, and your writing is so amazing. And your horoscopes. Are you still doing horoscopes?
Yeah. Thank you for it's like I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm a horoscope writer for the Mountain Astrologer magazine. So yeah, I write horoscopes all the time. You can find it in that magazine or online. And thank you. I'm so honored that you like my horoscopes, Celeste.
They are so accurate. I was like, it was blowing my mind when you said said about the last like eclipses, because like almost everything happens in my life.
Ooh, that gave me body chills. Yeah, well, I be working hard on those. It takes like a week of prep before I even write them. So I'm glad. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we'll be in touch,
Yes.
and you take care. And
You
yeah,
too.
we'll see how it all sorts out on Monday.
Oh God.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
I'll see
Much
you
love.
later. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you all. Bye.